Dome back another week of football. Very excited to talk about all of this, Drew. Um, First things first, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thunderdome, huh?
Yeah, it's the new Thunderdome.
Let's get ready to. Oh, that's copyrighted. I can't say that.
Immediately flagged.
There go our
um,
86 subscribers.
yeah, they're gonna. You know what? That's probably what YouTube would do. Is they would very much like crack down on like sub 100 subscriber channels. Nobody else, just a sub 100 subscribers. So we got to push past that. You got to hit the subscribe button so we don't get flagged for dumb stuff like that. Drew, what are we doing today? What are our topics of discussion? Why don't you go and tell the people?
We're going to talk about this is going to be a prediction show, but not scheduling or who's going to win the Super Bowl or anything. We're just going to throw down who we think is going to win the postseason awards. We're going to talk about the much too early. The 2020 podcast presents the much too early power rankings, and then we're going to give each other 5 very, very bold and spicy hot takes. Just 5 of them. Just some crazy shit that we think might happen this year because we know that it's been a long off season and the script writers have been locked away for a couple of months to make some crazy shit happen in the NFL this year. And we're excited to give you a little glimpse into that.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and start with the award predictions. We're going to be doing all the big ones: MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and Defensive Rookie of the Year. We're not going to do Coach of the Year or Comeback Player of the Year or anything like that. Just stick with the big ones. Starting off with the biggest award and the most coveted award, the MVP. Drew, do you want to start or do you want me to start? We'll kind of go back and forth.
We're starting with MVP.
Oh, you want to start bottom up? You want to start with the rookies?
Yeah, let's get a roll going.
Okay, then Defensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Start off with
let's go defensive.
Okay. So, Defensive Rookie of the Year. I have someone that we have vetted for months and months and months since the beginning of the draft.
If you pick my guy, I'm going to be so mad.
I'm going Laiatu Latu.
Oh, okay, good. Perfect. I support your decision.
Laiatu Latu's been our pass rusher, the 2020 podcast rookie pass rusher, since we started doing the draft and the mock drafts and the rankings. Laiatu Latu's been our guy. The Defensive Rookie of the Year award has been very comfortably a pass rusher award. Sauce Gardner is the only exception outside of that, and he had to immediately propel himself into the conversation of best corner in the league to even win that award. So I think this is pretty comfortably a pass rusher. So I came down to a couple of guys, all pass rushers, but Latu is the guy I came out with. I think he has a perfect chance to start on a line that produced the league's 5th best sack team last year and the 10th best sack league sacks in the year before that. So 44 and 51 in those 2 years. The huge difference between the Colts and the other 2 guys and their respective teams is one man and one man alone. And it's DeForest Buckner. It's a guy that's a difference maker on the defensive line who takes up so much space and takes up so much attention for the other offensive linemen that the other guys have a chance to get free. And Laiatu Latu, with the multiple pass rush moves, the very, very clean presented pass rusher he is, has a chance to really make a big impact in his first year. Who did you go with?
I think that a lot of your argument here is sound. There was a plethora of talented corners that were taken here in the draft, guys that I pounded the table for. Yep. And because of that, because of so many talented corners, I think it's going to be almost impossible for one of those corners to win the award this year.
Yeah.
Mainly because of what Sauce put on tape and what it takes for a corner to win. So I'm also going edge rusher, but I like Latu. He was my number 1 defensive player on the board. The thing about Latu is the Colts, their defense, their depth up there is pretty deep. It's pretty good. And expecting Latu to be able to, this is going to be a sub in on the pass rushing downs. And I just don't know if he's going to get enough statistical chances to win Defensive Player of the Year. Whereas on the flip side, my pick, goes to a team that has Jalen Phillips with a torn Achilles and Bradley Chubb with a torn ACL, which is going to lead Chop Robinson to have a ton of opportunity to show off his raw talent, his super rare explosiveness, and they should just put him on the field and let him go. So my pick for defensive rookie of the year is going to be Chop.
That's funny because my other two candidates weren't even Chop. He didn't even cross my mind, honestly. Totally just slip up. I don't know if I'd even put him above the other two guys. For me personally, Jared Verse was like the very close second in this race. He plays alongside guys who aren't the biggest household names right now, but honestly, mark my words, these guys are going to make a lot of noise in the next 3 years. They're going to be a unit to recognize. Kobe Turner, Byron Young, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk. Those guys are going to make a name for themselves, but I see him a lot of DeMarcus Lawrence making an impact on the run game, the tackles for a loss. Not a lot of sack production I could see from Jared Verse, at least in the first year. So I kind of weighed off of him a little bit and kind of steered toward Latu. But for me personally, Verse was like a really close second. I didn't even think about Chop, though. I probably should have.
The thing I have with Verse is he plays for the Rams, and so he has 2 games this year where he's going to have to go against the 49ers and
the who?
Teams don't sack us too much. He has 2 games that he has to play against Kyler Murray, who's like my dark horse for having a massive season this year. I think he's going to be fantastic. And the Seahawks are quietly putting something together over there with their new offensive, or not, I guess, head coach. So that's 6 games against really competitive teams that he's going to have to play. And, there's going to be these games. The thing about Verse, though, is he's going to defend the run. So
Absolutely.
that's going to be hard to, it's going to be hard to see how voters quantify that, with his run defense, because that's what he really brings to the table. So We'll see. I honestly don't hate either of your picks. As I was sitting down going through this, and we're like, who's the offensive rookie of the year? Well, we already know who that's going to be. So I just wanted to do something different for some of the other picks. So that's why I went with Chop.
Yeah. Well, then, mentioning it, obviously, offensive rookie of the year. This one's pretty simple. Caleb Williams is, I think, the definitive winner of this award. This isn't really this is an award that feels like quantified by position only. 3 quarterbacks and 2 wide receivers have won it in the last 5 years, but guys like Saquon and Alvin Kamara have won it in recent memory as well. So outside of the quarterback position, the other skill positions, if they break records, that still might not be enough. We saw that last year with Puka Nacua, with standing records that haven't been broken in decades and decades and decades. And it doesn't matter if your quarterback, if this rookie quarterback takes this team to new heights and new successes, they're going to choose that quarterback 9 times out of 10, maybe even go as far as 10 times out of 10. And I don't think there's any rookie quarterback in recent memory that's been able to step into a situation as catered to him as much as Caleb Williams has been able to, improving at every level of the offense this offseason. The Bears are poised to make a strong playoff push in a very shaky NFC conference, especially at those bottom rungs, to sneak into a wild card potentially. Caleb being able to potentially make the playoffs due to the NFC being weaker, being the Bears' potential first quarterback to pass for over 4,000 yards, potentially being the Bears' first quarterback to pass over for 30 touchdowns, and having the big household name puts him squarely first for Offensive Rookie of the Year. This is his award to lose. And I don't really see anyone else kind of sneaking in unless you do.
No, I mean, the wide receivers, you just don't get enough stats. I mean, like you said, Puka did his thing last year and it wasn't even close. And there wasn't a top running back that was taken.
Right.
The outside shot here would probably be Bo Nix, because he's going to the Broncos and it's a pro-ready offense and all that stuff. And that's kind of like a Caleb Williams gets hurt type of pick. I will ask you this, though, just kind of throw this at you. CJ Stroud last year, 4,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Does Caleb Williams have a better year than 4,100 yards and 23 and 5?
I think he's going to be similar. He could be very similar in the passing yards category. Touchdowns, I wouldn't put it past him to score more touchdowns than that. I think there's more weapons there. We're talking about DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, now bringing Rome Odunze, DeAndre Swift, a very much improved offensive line. This is a team that's better poised.
DeAndre Swift.
This is a team that's better poised to make a run than the Texans were at the beginning of the year last year. I think he's gonna be a little bit better.
Yeah, the weapons are definitely considerable. Everybody talks about the Texans wide receiver core, but like nobody talked about the Texans wide receiver core before the season. Like nobody was talking about Nico Collins, Tank Dell. Like nobody was talking about these guys. Now they burst on the scene because CJ Stroud played amazing, and those players look like they're legit and here to stay. But nobody was talking about these guys, and it's not a Keenan Allen, it's not a Rome. So yeah, I mean they could probably just give the dude the award now, assuming he stays healthy. Yep. That's just like. It was like when you asked me, do you want to do comeback player of the year? I'm like, no, it's Aaron Rodgers. Let's move on with life. You know what I mean? Like if he even comes back and has half a decent season, they're going to dump it on him. So,
right.
I mean, coach of the year is interesting, but if the Bears make the playoffs, then their head coach is coach of the year. Or if the Jets make the playoffs, then Robert Saleh is the coach of the year. So it's all just, I didn't want to do the lazy ones. Caleb Williams is kind of lazy, but it's, there's no argument there to be had.
If Caleb gets hurt, who's next up? You said Bo Nix is next up for that award, or is there anyone else that really comes into mind who might be next up if Caleb goes down with an injury?
Yeah, I mean, Sam Darnold's the starter in Minnesota. Doesn't look like J.J. McCarthy is going to beat him out. Bo Nix sounds like he's the starter in Denver, and Drake May is just super raw. And, I mean, my boy over in Washington, I pounded the table for him all offseason as the number 2 pick. I just think that the Washington is just not there yet.
Yeah.
And you might say that about the Broncos also, but the Broncos have Sean Payton, and that's, what about they have Sean Payton.
No, you don't think so? Even if Caleb goes down, you don't think Marvin has a pretty good chance to shoot him into that top conversation?
No, I think if we were going to go wide receiver, it's Malik Neighbors, because there's nothing else on that team. He might get 100 receptions this year. Like they're going to try to turn Malik Neighbors. This season is going to be like, they're going to do like the Deebo Samuel thing. Like just get him the ball at any point of contact behind the line of scrimmage, 5 yards, 10 yards, deep balls, whatever. Can we get the ball into Malik Neighbors' hands and try to let him go crazy?
As often as possible, yeah.
He might just rack it. If the dude goes for like a couple 80 or 90-yard touchdowns this year, and the Giants all of a sudden they're sitting at 7-7, it's like, well, holy shit. The thing about the Cardinals is they still play in a super competitive division. So them being, Marvin Harrison racking up all these stats, I don't see it.
Outside shot, super sleeper from the chat. Joe Milton is a serious sleeper, maybe not for an award, but I think he takes a job from May.
It's actually, I will tell you, if the Cowboys had got their hands on one of those rookie running backs, then I think that would be an excellent chance.
Real estate, yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of the Cowboys, how many snaps is Trey Lance going to take this year?
How many games are we blowing people out in?
Okay.
Defensive player of the year. You want to go ahead and take the reins on this one? I'm curious to see where you go, if we're on the same page here, or even if we have the same candidates.
Yeah, I think this player is going to have a career high in sacks. I think he's going to have a career high in tackles for loss. I think he's going to have a career high in forced fumbles. I think he's going to have a pick 6. And I think he's going to get a massive contract, and that's going to be number 11, Mr. Micah Parsons.
Yeah, we're on the same page. Okay.
The thing about it is this keeps happening. Like a player shows out, like TJ Watt had a great year, and then the next year he won the award. Nick Bosa had a great year. Then the next year they gave Nick Bosa the award. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's all well deserved. It just like, you can see this stuff coming on the horizon.
Oh yeah,
and
for sure.
Aaron Donald, I think he went 3 years in a row, and then JJ Watt he was 3 years, but not 3 years in a row.
Yeah,
but
JJ's 3, yeah.
Micah has been talked about every season, and I'm super interested to see what Mike Zimmer does with him, because I just think that he's like a weapon, And what has been done with him the past couple of years has been best for his stats, but not best for the surprise of your defense. So I just think a little bit more linebacker, rushing him over the center.
Right.
I think that there's going to be a lot of stunts delayed. I think Micah could honestly, I think that Micah could have a great season overall, and he might have that Khalil Mack game where he has like 4 sacks against, like whoever, the New Orleans Saints or something. Maybe we'll be on hand for that. So hopefully,
the Defensive Player of the Year award is pretty
if
much
the Niners lose, I'm not driving us home, though. I'm just letting you and your dad know right now. If we lose, I'm not making that damn drive. One of y'all is driving us back. So
the Defensive Player of the Year award, I feel like up to this point, it's pretty comfortably a pass rusher award. Only one corner winner in the last 5 years. Xavier Howard is the only other non-pass rusher candidate in the last 5 years. And what's funny about the Defensive Player of the Year award is sack production does not equal automatic winner, but impact and advanced stats, it feels like matter more. And there's been no back-to-back winner in the last 5 years as well. My personal candidates, obviously, Micah is my winner, but my other candidates, obviously, TJ is going to be in it year after year because of his sack production that he ends up putting up. And then my other candidate, I think, is a little bit of a sleeper pick, and I really hope that he propels himself in that Defensive Player of the Year category, is maybe Aiden Hutchinson. I think maybe a lot of eyes are going to be on him this season, and he could propel himself. It's funny you talking about all of the things with Micah about getting career highs in all of these statistics, because I had the same exact thing on my notes. This puts him in prime position to rack up solo tackles, pass breakups, interceptions, along with his normal double-digit sack numbers as well. A lot of Steeler fans are not going to like TJ not being picked for Defensive Player of the Year. I swear I see them crying on every single social media post out there, regardless of what social media site it is. I think TJ is one of the most consistent pass rushers in the last few years, stacking up, incredible sack numbers after incredible sack numbers. But he very often gets overlooked for these awards, regardless of those numbers. Some of the advanced stats last year were not really favorable towards him, especially the double team percentage. While Alex Highsmith, his teammate, is getting double teamed at a higher percentage than he is, he's able to get to the quarterback a little bit more often. So out of the big guys, the big pass rushers, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, these guys, TJ Watt is getting double teamed the least amount out of all these guys. So I think that really kind of puts eyes on TJ on how much sack production is he getting compared to impact over the whole 60 minutes of the game. But again, Aiden for me is a very close second, and I just kind of want to spotlight that and throw that out that he could potentially be a candidate in there. I think he could take a big leap in this next coming year.
I just think that, much like I said about what happens with this award, is Aiden could have more sacks than Micah Parsons this year, and Micah still win it. And then Aiden's the favorite going in next year. The thing about Steelers fans and TJ Watt is listen, I'm going to tell you that, hey, Jacob, I'm here from the future. I just want to give you this small tidbit to let you know, with the 49ers signing Leonard Floyd and letting him go nuts, Nick Bosa had 22 and a half sacks this year, and he won Defensive Player of the Year. That's not surprising to anyone, right? If TJ Watt goes nuts and wins Defensive Player of the Year, that's not surprising to anyone. But I'm also not picking Patrick Mahomes as MVP because, boo, that's fucking boring. So it's Micah. He hasn't won it yet, and as long as he doesn't have a terrible year, if he's in the top 3 of all those categories, they're just going to give it to him because it's his time.
Yep, absolutely. All the other guys that I've already mentioned have already won theirs, besides Max, but he's just not. He's like a step behind the other guys, which Raiders fans aren't going to like that one. Offensive Player of the Year, I'll go ahead and take it. I had a couple of candidates, but my winner, I ended up going with a guy that I did not think of immediately when I first jumped into it, and it's Ja'Marr Chase. I think Ja'Marr Chase has a very, very, very strong case for Offensive Player of the Year. My other candidates were Saquon Barkley, obviously moving to the Eagles, getting that new offensive line, and potentially CeeDee Lamb as well. For me, Ja'Marr Chase is one season away, one contract away, or one offseason away from getting the big contract at this point. And players prove time and time again that a massive season before a contract extension is a normal thing. Ja'Marr Chase has been 1,000-yard, 80-catch, 7-touchdown receiver at the bare minimum every single year. And now with last year, he's also not just been the the big play receiver, right? We see like guys like George Pickens. He's the big play receiver, but I don't think of George Pickens as like an underneath guy with a bunch of catches. Ja'Marr Chase turned himself into that guy. He had 100 catches last year. So if he can continue that, especially with the departure of Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon moving on, Joe Burrow healthy back and giving Ja'Marr Chase really a massive chance, I think this could be his award to win. I know there's other candidates, but looking back in the last 5 years, there hasn't really been a whole bunch of repeat guys inside like that top 3 of potential getting it in the last 5 years. So Ja'Marr Chase, wild card, throw him in there. I think he's primed for it. Who do you have? Because I'm curious now.
I just kind of thought to myself who the best offensive weapons in the NFL are. And Christian McCaffrey won it last year, and Justin Jefferson has won it. CeeDee Lamb isn't even on a team right now, so I can't qualify him because who knows what's going on with that. And I do not think it's going to be Ja'Marr Chase. And so I kind of went chalk on this one. I think it's Tyreek Hill. He probably could have won it last year. And again, just an offense that is going to give him all the touches in the world to try to win ball games. I think Tyreek is probably going to go freaking nuts this year, and much like he did last year. And, you know, he got hurt last year, which kind of hurt him in the offensive player of the year. So my pick is Tyreek Hill. And if you don't mind, can I lead off MVP next?
Yeah, sure. I just had a hard time with the Tyreek Hill thing. How many times can this guy really put up these incredible stats year after year after year? This guy has hit that
year after year after year.
That dreaded 30 age at this point. I'm not so sure how much further he could go, and I was kind of nervous about picking him to kind of throw him into that award category. I just don't know if he's going to put up another 119 catches, 1,700 yards, 10 plus touchdowns. I don't know if he's going to do something like that again. It's possible. We're talking about the most explosive receiver in the league. We're in that, like, I'm in that time period right now where I'm kind of unsure of where Tyreek's at, just because of age and when he's going to slow down. You can't keep up that type of game forever. I'm just not so sure when that time is going to come. So I totally get it, honestly, and it makes a lot of sense. I couldn't bring myself to actually give him that award. With the MVP, though, Drew wants to lead it off. I'm very, very interested to see where you go, because I don't have the chalk pick either.
Yeah, so Ja'Marr Chase can't win Offensive Player of the Year when they give Joe Burrow the MVP award. So I disagree with your Offensive Player of the Year because they're not going to reward both those guys. But Joe Burrow is going to make it back to the Super Bowl this year, and he is going to take home an MVP award.
He was in my candidates. I had a ton of candidates because it's a quarterback award, and no winner in the last 5 years have finished below number one in their own respective conference. I just don't know if the Bengals are going to put all of it together. Kind of got the shaky running back situation going on. What is behind those top 2 wide receivers? I'm not so sure what's on that defense. I'm not 100%.
Remind me that running back again. They were so in love with it. Is it Zach Moss? Is that who they signed?
Zach Moss, you're right.
They traded away. Absolutely. They traded away my boy and celebrated them like, oh my God, we got Zach Moss. Like, all right. Hey, but Joey B is going to win the MVP this year, so you guys are going to be all right.
I have someone else who is very young and is a very standout quarterback, and I think he's going to continue the trend of second-year AFC quarterbacks. You could not give CJ
Stroud the MVP. Get the fuck out of here. No.
Why is it that outlandish? Why is it?
Because they'll just never give it to him.
Why?
Because it's his second year. They just won't.
They did it to Patrick Mahomes. They did it to Lamar Jackson. This is a recent trend.
Right. Patrick Mahomes and Lamar still exist.
Yeah, I totally understand it, but I'm also picking the Texans to take a giant leap this year. No team except maybe the Eagles has improved more than the Texans this offseason. It's very clear what they are doing. They're putting all of their chips in. They're telling you, this is our focal point on offense. We're telling you, this is CJ Stroud. He told you who he was last year. He came out, and he came out with just straight fire. And
Yeah, bro, but nobody expected it.
He's going to continue it with all of the offensive weapons that they've added. It's going to just give him more fuel to the fire. You're giving the guy more weapons, better weapons.
I'm not super impressed with Stephon Diggs. I don't think that changes much for him.
I think it does. I think Joe Mixon and Stephon Diggs are definitely big ups.
I think that he's going to have statistically a worse season this year than he did last year.
I don't.
The hunters become the hunted. They're not going to catch anybody by surprise this year. And yeah, Patrick Mahomes won it. He has fucking Andy Reid. And Lamar won it because he ran all over people and had a shit ton of rushing touchdowns. CJ Stroud doesn't have that in his game.
Yeah, I don't think the other guys, regardless, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, I don't think they're going to win an MVP this next year. I think you're getting a little bit of voter fatigue. Like Lamar won it off of a weak year out of a bunch of different people. I don't think they're going to give it to Patrick again.
Patrick Mahomes should be the fucking MVP every year. He won a Super Bowl last year with no wide receivers, and now he's got Xavier Worthy and he's got Hollywood Brown.
Yep. And LeBron James should be the MVP every single year in the NBA, but it's something that just doesn't happen. Other guys who get a lot of kind of dark horse picks, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, Jared Goff, Brock Purdy are all getting whispers about potential. And I just don't see any of those guys. I don't have enough faith in Jalen Hurts as a player. Jared Goff and Brock Purdy are not sexy picks, and I don't think they're going to hand a award out to either one of those guys. And Jordan Love has too many question marks off of a handful of games last year in this massive contract that I'm just not so sure he's going to be able to repeat and perform. I'm not mad about the Joe Burrow pick at all. I want to go different. And I think the Texans are going to have a massive year. And I know you think they're going to be, CJ is going to be worse, but I don't think so. I think CJ is going to be better.
I'm going to go ahead and give you one of my 5 predictions just because we're on this conversation, and I'm going to take it off and I'll add another one. But Justin Herbert's going to have a better year this year than CJ Stroud does. It's one of my outlandish 5 picks this year.
Yeah. Well, I have a Chargers one too. So
that is a professionally coached football team. And I love DeMeco Ryans, but the Texans are on everybody's radar this year. They're getting everybody's best fucking shot. And that is hard to deal with.
Yeah, potentially. But I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to be a lot better. But talking about the teams in general, I think this is a good time to move on to the power rankings, top 10 power rankings for the 2024-2025 NFL season. Drew, before we get into the top 10, I text you maybe if you had any honorable mentions. So maybe at 11, 12, 13, do you have anyone there that you kind of want to shout out and maybe taking a leap you wish you could put in the top 10, but you couldn't quite push them in there?
I don't have the Miami Dolphins in the top 10.
Wow. Okay.
Just so everybody knows, this isn't where everybody's going to finish. This is just preseason power rankings. I don't have the Miami Dolphins in the top 10. I wish I could have found a way to get them in there. And I wish I could have somehow got the Atlanta Falcons in there because they got all the pieces on offense and they got the quarterback to put that together. And I'm talking about Kirk, not Michael.
I don't know, man. I think Penix has a good chance to beat him out.
Right. So
Penix is my guy.
I saw a power ranking the other day that had the Jaguars at 10. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
yeah, that's a little nuts.
They paid Trevor Lawrence, so now you guys are forgetting what Trevor Lawrence is all about? Like, no.
Okay. I had the Bears outside the top 10. I had the Packers outside the top 10. And I think one team that a lot of people have inside the top 10 that I just don't believe in at all, with losing multiple weapons, having to get rid of a ton of guys, trying to get rid of all this cap space, is the Buffalo Bills. Just miss the top 10 for me. So
yeah, you know that like Josh Allen's MVP odds are like some of the best out there right now.
Yep, he's like second.
Like people,
I just don't see it. I just can't. I don't get it. A team gets significantly worse and they're still put inside the top 6. I can't do it. That person.
Well, because they have the second best quarterback in the league. That's why.
Yeah. Absolutely, but
when was the last time a team with a top 3 quarterback got ranked outside the top 10?
I get it.
You can't rank them outside the top 10 just so you don't look like an idiot later. Like you can't, you know what I mean? If we were nationally syndicated here, I wouldn't even let you go on air with that take because
I can do what I want.
We just would look dumb later. So
good. It's part of the brand.
I will tell you every time I get on X, Keon Coleman is doing something crazy at camp. So Keon Coleman's not going to come in and replace Stephon Diggs right away. But
he's just not a receiver I believe in very much. Pre-draft, post-draft, it's just not a guy I believe in. You don't get any separation in college. You're not going to do it in the NFL.
We'll see.
So number 10, Drew, go ahead and start it off.
The 49ers have a really good wide receiver that doesn't get separation, and all he does is score fucking touchdowns and run people over. So
yeah, it's a little bit different though.
This 10 for me is like the roster is already good, assuming everybody shows up and plays. And despite the owner promising that they were going all in this year and not fucking doing jack shit about anything, there is something to be said about Dak Prescott playing for his next team this year and trying to get that $200 million, that's $60 million a year contract, which I don't think is that big of a surprise anyway, because we're almost there, you know, outside of Deshaun Watson. I think we're at $55 million a year. So that's just the next thing. But at number 10, I have the Cowboys.
10, and I have the Cowboys in my top 10, not quite 10, but 10, you're not going to like this pick. I could tell because of your MVP pick, but 10, I have the Bengals. Kind of already highlighted a bunch of questions I have about the Bengals. I'm not so sure about some of the pieces on offense. I still have a lot of questions about the offensive line. I have a lot of questions about the defense, but I think that I believe in the weapons and I believe in the quarterback just as much as I believe in Josh Allen. I believe just as much in Joe Burrow, and the offensive weapons and the things around him are better than they are in Buffalo. So that's why the Bengals beat out the Bills at that 10 spot for me.
Well, just so you know, I don't even have the Bengals in the top 10 because their defense is fucking terrible, which is why Joey Burrow is going to have to throw for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns a game for them to win anything, which when he ends the season with fucking 50 touchdowns and, you know, 5,500 passing yards, there's your MVP.
But no quarterback in the last 5 years have ended lower than number 1 in the division in their conference. And I don't care. It's going to start now.
That's not a rule. That's just a trend. Trends break all the time.
Yeah, for special things. And I don't know if he's going to have it. We can move on. Number 9, I have
50 touchdowns would be pretty special, don't you think?
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to get it.
I mean, if Jamar Chase is going to win Offensive Player of the Year, how many is he going to have? 20?
Yeah, he's not going to have 20.
How much did Tyreek Hill have last year?
13.
I mean, you got to put up like 2,000 yards and 15 touchdowns to get the award because Jefferson's going to go nuts. Tyreek Hill's going to go nuts.
Yep. It's definitely going to be a wide receiver race.
Christian McCaffrey is going to have 20 touchdowns this year combined.
Maybe if he stays healthy.
Well, he has.
Mm-hmm.
With the 49ers, he hasn't had any issues.
Number 9, I have the Cowboys. I have a lot of questions about Dallas. I've already put my concerns out there in terms of who's running the ball. Rico Dowdle / Zeke / whoever else wants to come in and run the football. Maybe Jerry Jones will suit up for a game and he might run the ball a little bit. Obviously, I do think Dak's going to go nuts. I've been an avid Dak supporter since day one, and I will never switch up my position on that. I have a lot of questions about CeeDee Lamb. Slow start, maybe injured because guys who don't go to training camp get injured quite a bit. No matter how many offseason workout videos that they post, football shape is different than actual being in shape. And then, so again, slow start, miscommunications with CeeDee, and CeeDee and Dak are the offense. If those guys aren't clicking, the team is not going to do well. No matter how good the defense is, top 3, top 4 defense, I just have a lot of concerns. So that's my 9. Who's yours?
The Buffalo Bills.
Okay.
I think that getting the cancer that was Stephon Diggs out of that locker room is going to be addition by subtraction, and you have a top 3 quarterback. So you're going to win games because he's going to run and throw and will yourself into wins.
Potentially, yeah. I get it. It's hard to bet against the top those top couple of quarterbacks in the league. I just am so unsure about what's surrounding Josh on both sides of the ball that I just missed the cut for me.
What was surrounding Patrick Mahomes last year?
Yeah, that's Patrick Mahomes. That's a different
I mean,
beast. That's like the
it's
second
really
best
not
quarterback of all time.
But again, it's also Andy fucking Reid.
Yeah.
Like, you put Josh Allen on the Chiefs these past couple of years, he has a couple Super Bowls. You put Joe Burrow, you put all the top guys with Andy Reid and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and all this shit that they've had. It's, Patrick Mahomes is far and away the more talented of them all, and that's why he has multiple Super Bowls. But that team is locked and loaded. It has the second best coach of all time at this point, probably modern era. Don't talk to me about Don Shula. I don't know anything about him.
Patrick Mahomes doesn't make the mistakes that Josh Allen does.
He doesn't have to. They had a top defense last year. All he had to do was dink and dunk and game manage himself down the field. It actually wasn't even, his season actually wasn't even that great. It wasn't until he got into the playoffs that it was like, oh, holy fuck, there's Patrick Mahomes again.
Yeah, but the thing is Patrick Mahomes has already proved himself of who he is. Josh Allen's proven himself who he is too, and he's a turnover machine. The guy turns the ball over constantly, year after year after year after year. You can't tell me that the guy's going to turn the ball over a million times in the season.
All that dude does is win playoff games until he has to face the Chiefs.
Yeah, but again, going into this year, losing a lot of offensive weapons, I'm not going to put I'm not putting the eggs in the basket of Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman, who I don't really believe in, and then 2 tight ends. Like, that's not where I'm putting it. And a lot of questions at James Cook at running back. When he has the hot hand, he's good. When he doesn't, he doesn't. So there's a lot of questions there as well. And the defense is just not good with all the pieces they had to let go, especially in the secondary.
When was the last time a top 3 quarterback didn't have a successful season? Look that up.
I don't know. I'd have to.
He's just going to have a successful season. It just is what they do. That's why they're the top quarterbacks in the NFL. And if a motherfucker can't get open in the red zone, he's just going to run it
in. Who's your number 8?
I mean, I don't have him at 4, right. But he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You can't,
I get it.
It's some motherfucker that's dropping the Bills out of the top 10 and putting a rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams in when he got brittle ass Keenan Allen, an unproven rookie, and a career second number 2 wide receiver, like, over Josh Allen, proven Josh Allen. The only reason why Josh Allen doesn't have a Super Bowl is because he keeps having to play the greatest quarterback of all time, second greatest quarterback of all time. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just.
Who's your
and if his defense was worth a shit ever in his career, he wouldn't have all the fucking interceptions. When I come in, listen, if I told you that Dak Prescott was going to have to score, that offense was going to have to score 35 to 38 points a week to win games, I would tell you he'd throw 30 interceptions this year, because we've seen him try to come back from deficits. It doesn't work. The same thing with Josh Allen. That motherfucker's always behind, always trying to bring his team back. Anyways, this is why we do this. That way I can tell you later when you're wrong.
Gotcha. Yeah. The thing is you're just wrong. I think that's like where we're getting around to is you're just wrong. I think that's kind of.
You're betting against a top 3 quarterback. That just doesn't make it doesn't make statistical sense. It doesn't make gambling sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but you're also telling me that the Bills had a bad. You're telling me that the Bills had a bad defense when they had a top 5 defense in the league when it comes to yards, when it comes to passing defense, when it comes to they're top.
No, I'm not talking about their defense last year. I'm talking about in his career. He's constantly had to bring his team back from deficits, and he constantly does it. All he does is win.
He had the second best defense the year before that. He had the first defense the year before that.
Right, and he continued to win, right?
Yeah, but now he doesn't have a defense. That's what I'm trying to say is I don't think he's poised for it right now.
So you think the guy who's been nothing but successful his entire career all of a sudden is just not going to be good because his defense isn't good?
I don't think it's not about him. One, partially it is because I think, again, he turns the ball over way too much. He's way too prone to it. He's proven it again and again in his career. He had like one good year of not turning the ball over an absurd amount of times. But now with the team surrounding him, I don't think he's good enough to be in the top 10.
What did Stephon Diggs do last year?
Somewhere around 1,000 yards ish, ball range, ballpark, somewhere around that.
That's your game changer. They go from a AFC championship contender last year to dropping out of the top 10 in the NFL because they lost Stephon Diggs.
107, 1183, and 8 touchdowns.
8 touchdowns. So that drops them out of the top 10 from being AFC championship favorites last year.
And then their defense is a lot worse.
They cut a bunch of old fuckers. A bunch of dudes in their 30, a cornerback with a blown ass ACL, a safety that was a free agent for like 6 months.
And they were still a top 10 defense in the league. And then now you cut all the guys and you don't replace them with who? Because you can't. You have no money. You're negative $80 million at the start of the year, and you had to cut all these guys. I get it, but you also couldn't replace them with anybody. You're going to rely on your offense. You're going to rely on Keon Coleman, who can't get any separation, Khalil Shakir, who's well above not proven at all. And then James Cook, who's hot and cold. That's what you're putting all your eggs in the basket for. I just don't think that's top 10 worthy.
Okay. I love throwing my wins in your face, so I'm okay with it. This is an easy one.
Okay. Who's your number 8?
The Ravens.
Wow. Ravens dropping to 8, huh? This is a team that's usually in the top 3 or 4.
Yeah. I mean, somebody's got to figure out Lamar eventually. Mm-hmm. He can't win a fucking playoff game to save his life.
True.
And they lose some pieces on defense, and at some point the gimmicks have to end. Josh Allen runs people the fuck over. Yeah. Like that's how he scores. He puts his shoulder pad into someone's chest and runs them over. Like at some point the fairy tale of Lamar Jackson has to end.
I get it. The Ravens are in my top 10. They are higher. My number 8 is a team that I think potentially could have it's all banks on one guy, and it's at the quarterback position, but I think the defense is enough to even keep him in. And I have the Browns at number 8. Yep. That's the number 1 defense in the league. That's a lot of weapons around Deshaun Watson. If he could put something together half-assed like Joe Flacco, that's a top 10 team. Everything surrounding that guy is ready now. If you want to talk about putting Josh Allen on that team, that's the number 1 team in the league. Far and away. It's not even close.
Deshaun Watson hasn't been good in like 5 years.
I get it.
And he doesn't want to play.
I get it.
He gets hurt and he sits down.
I get it. But again, I think that if he could put something together that's at least half-assed, the rest of the team is good enough to propel them in that top 10. But I get the reasoning. It all banks on the one guy.
That's crazy.
It all banks on the one guy.
That's fucking crazy.
I don't think that's crazy. The rest of the team is really fucking good. This is the polar opposite of the Bills. The whole team fucking sucks while you have one fucking guy. If you have every other guy on the team that's really fucking good with one guy, Joe Flacco stepped in and made that team immediately made a playoff team. That's where I'm sitting. The team is very, very, very good surrounding Deshaun Watson. And I get the questions about Deshaun Watson. That's why I prefaced it by saying it depends on the quarterback. It depends on the guy under center. Puts together something half-assed, and it makes them a very, very strong contender. That's where you're at. That's everything surrounding that team.
You think the Cleveland Browns are better than the Los Angeles Rams? People are picking the Rams to win like 12 games this year.
I don't give a fuck about the Rams that much.
All right.
Yeah, I see people picking the Rams to win the fucking Super Bowl. I won't even throw this one in your face later because I'm just like, he must have been drunk on this one. I'm not, dude. I'm talking about the team. I don't give a fuck about just the one guy. Absolutely. I'm not wrong here. How are we just going to focus on the one dude when the rest of everything else around some of these guys like Josh Allen is garbage? It's absolutely fucking dookie. While everything surrounding guys on the Browns team is very, very good. Offensive line, the wide receivers, your running back, your old defense. 100%.
Bro, the Browns could be third in their division this year.
I'd potentially. But again, I put them above the Bengals because I think there's more questions about the Bengals and the entire team surrounding Joe Burrow. I like Joe
The
Burrow.
Bengals have a top 5 quarterback.
Absolutely.
Every year this happens, the top quarterbacks win a bunch of games. I mean, unless you're questioning Burrow being able to stay healthy, I can't argue with that. But
part of it, yeah.
if Burrow plays the whole season, they're going to win more games than the Browns. Deshaun Watson will stub his toe and decide, no, thank you. Who's the Browns' backup quarterback?
Off top, I don't know.
Deshaun fucking Watson, top 10. Jesus Christ.
Jameis Winston. Dude, see, look at that. Jameis Winston in there. That's a top 10 team still.
Oh, my God. Top
He's
10 in
throw
interceptions thrown.
Josh Allen. What are we talking about?
Stop comparing Jameis Winston to Josh Allen.
Oh, my gosh, bro. No. To talk about picks, it's the same amount. They throw a fuck ton. Everyone wants to be like Brett Favre. I get it. Let's fucking relax a little bit.
I don't even think that I fucking put the Browns. I put like 17 teams down. I even put the Browns on here.
I absolutely put the Browns down.
Who the fuck is their running back? Who are they handing the ball to?
A healthy Nick Chubb.
All right. Well, that's weird. But I got the New York Jets next, so I mean, I guess we can argue plenty of shit here.
And I don't have the Jets on my list at all.
They got a great defense and one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. So generally, when the quarterbacks stay healthy, that's who ends up in the top 10.
Yeah.
What was the worst quarterback to not be in the top 10 last year? Even the fucking Jaguars ran one. No, I'm just the standings.
At the end of the year. End of the year standings. This makes for great content. Did you pull it up?
Yeah, I mean, like Matt Stafford was the best quarterback, not in the top 10 in the NFL last year.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's
8,
Jordan Love. The Packers weren't a top 10 team.
Yeah, Jordan Love,
like,
Matt Stafford. Yeah,
every single one of the superstar quarterbacks last year was in the top 10. That's just.
But the times change and the wins change and the teams change.
So a team led by Deshaun Watson is going to be better than a team led by Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen next year.
The Jets are one injury away on every single stack on that goddamn fucking offense and completely losing everything.
Right, but you don't factor in injuries into power rankings. You just factor into who the best teams are right now, today.
Yeah,
if they all play today.
I absolutely do, because I don't know if they're going to even stay healthy for a game. I don't know.
Right, that's why we update the power rankings every week. In week 4, when Patrick Mahomes breaks his neck, they're not going to be in the power rankings anymore, right? Actually, they'll still probably be 15th because of fucking Andy Reid. You know, if Brock Purdy blows out his butthole and we got to go to freaking the astronaut guy. You know, if Dak Prescott gets traded and Trey Lance is your quarterback, like that's why they get updated every week. These aren't final. We're not, someone might hurt their ankle in week 12. No, it's just today's preseason rankings.
I don't put a lot of stock into them staying healthy for even a game.
But you put stock in Deshaun Watson staying healthy.
The rest of the team, the rest of the team is good.
All right.
My number 7 is the unfortunate Philadelphia Eagles. I brought it up with the Texans. The Eagles are one of the most improved teams from year over year.
Yeah, why are they 7th? Why are they not like 4th?
I'm not a huge believer in Jalen Hurts, and I know there's a huge conversation could be happen with the Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, the trust in the read option thing, and it's going to be a lot more solid, and that's how they're going to run their whole thing. I just have a lot of questions about Jalen Hurts moving from last year to this year, and especially with the all-time collapse at the end of last year. I have a lot of questions about it. They're improved, and they're a lot better. They stay in that top 10. but I don't know how much further I can move up when I have questions about the validity of the collapse. Who's your number 6?
The Packers.
I had a hard time placing the Packers. I don't have them in there. They were like just slightly missed. I had a hard time placing them. Just I wasn't sure where I was going to actually end up, especially with all the young weapons, how they're going to develop. Jordan Love, the 8 games, I wasn't sure. So the Packers are going to be second in their division, wild card spot. That's what I'm guessing is what you have on the books.
Bro, I just think they got fucking Josh Jacobs, man. Like, y'all could have signed Josh Jacobs. He was a free agent. He would have came to Dallas. Y'all didn't want him.
Yep. I get it. Yeah, man. They were really hard for me to place and move around. So I had a hard time placing them inside that top 10. My number 6 is, I think you already said you don't have them in the top 10, is the Miami Dolphins. I think
they can't win. They can't win a game in the cold weather. So
absolutely.
I can't take them seriously.
Well, once we get to that playoff, believe me, once we get to the playoffs and we have playoff predictions and we have all that stuff, whoever they're facing, if it's cold weather, if it's outdoors, I'm not going to be picking them. I'm on board with you there. Absolutely. I
just can't take them seriously unless you think they can win the conference and get home games throughout the playoffs. If you tell me that they're the number 1 seed at the end of the year, then I'm interested in them making it to the Super Bowl, because they ain't playing no Super Bowl in the snow. But
yeah,
that's suspicious.
I have them as the 4th highest AFC team. So yeah, they're definitely not number 1. I don't see them. I see every other one of the 3 I have ahead of them winning the division, having a much better chance to win the division than the Dolphins. But I still, the high-powered offense, the multiple weapons on defense, especially losing a lot of guys at the end of last year, a lot of pass rushers, really hurt them, and being able to get after the quarterback at the end of the year. I think that hurts. Bringing a guy like Chop and bringing some of those guys back in healthy, I think is going to bring them exactly where they should be, somewhere around that 6, 7, 8-ish range of power rankings. What's your number 5?
The fucking Texans.
Okay, they are on my list too. So CJ is going to have a worse season, but we're going to end up in top 5 with them.
No, they're not going to end up top 5. They're just top 5 right now.
Okay, you just think he's statistically at the end of the year, they're going to end somewhere else in your mind. Not okay. I see what you're saying. Absolutely. Okay.
It's just,
I get it.
Yeah. I mean,
I have a team at number 5 that, their coach doesn't think that they're going to make it back to where they are, but I potentially do. The Detroit Lions at number 5. I think that this is a team who I've brought all the pieces back in, and I believe in everything they have going on. And they're where I have everything ranked right now, they're the 2nd best NFC team. I think it's very, very clear to me that the Lions have everything going for them to poise another potential NFC conference game. Potentially, most likely, unfortunately, against the number 1 team in the NFC. Who's your 4?
The Lions.
Okay, cool. So with the Lions, what's your is there just the rest of these teams ahead of them at 1, 2, 3 are just that much better than them? You can't place them higher, or what's the hang up with moving them any higher or lower?
The 3 teams that are in front of them are just better than them.
And that's kind of where I'm sitting too. Honestly, 4 and 5 are really close to me.
Jared Goff has been good, but he's still Jared Goff. He still can't move. And
and I know you said you might be you talked a little bit last week about Amon-Ra potentially taking a step back, not repeating that same type of season. That type of season is insane, obviously. I forgot how many catches he had, but I know he had 1,515 yards. He had 120 plus catches. So big year from him. Trying to repeat that year after year is definitely going to be a tough task. Only the best of the best can repeat years like that. If he does it, he solidifies himself as one of the top receivers in the league. But I see where you're coming from. I think I would bet on Amon-Ra being somewhere around that 14 to 1,500 yard range again. But I get it. Though those other couple of teams in front of the Lions at my 5, I think are better. Again, the 4 and 5 spot for me are interchangeable. My number 4 is the Baltimore Ravens. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Once you get to some of these higher up teams, I think you and I are going to be in a lot of agreements on like those teams, maybe not where they are, but those teams deserve to be somewhere in that top 5-ish. I think the Ravens are pretty self-explanatory. One of the best quarterbacks in the league. You have a bunch of pieces around him that surround him that make him better. And especially with that defense, I'm not really that concerned about losing Patrick Queen with Roquan Smith potentially making him as good as he was. I think the team is still good. I still think they deserve that top 5 spot very comfortably. Why'd you drop them outside that top 5? Is it just the Lamar thing that you're talking about?
Yeah, they lost pieces in the offseason, replaced them with rookies. It's a situation with them where it's more about my elevation in my mind of the Bengals than anything really to do with the Ravens. Yeah. But I think the Chiefs are the dynasty until someone proves them otherwise. They've earned that. Yep. I think the Bengals are going to be really good. I think the Chargers are going to be surprising teams. I think the Chargers are going to do what the Texans did last year. They're going to beat people unsuspectedly, and Justin Herbert's going to quietly have the best season of his career. So I just think when you start adding in all the math, that's what I said when I texted you the other day. I predict that the Eagles and the Cowboys go undefeated. Well, fuckface, they play each other twice. So it's just, statistically, if I think all these teams are going to have these great seasons, eventually it comes down to the mathematics of like, okay, one of these teams has to lose some of these games.
Yep.
So
your number 3 spot.
Oh, this team is dropped from 2 to 3. They might soon drop out of the top 5. Shit's getting wild and crazy. Number 3, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Their fucking Hall of Fame all-pro left tackle has yet to show up because he wants guaranteed money, which should have just already been done, because there's no harm in if I know that Jacob is going to show up for this podcast for the next 3 years, every single week, there's no problem with me guaranteeing you all your money because I know you're going to play. We know Trent Williams is playing out this entire year. Just give him guaranteed money. Right. We know he's going to show up all next year. Just give him guaranteed money. Right. You're not cutting Trent Williams. The only thing that might happen is he might retire, and then the money hits differently anyway. So I would just give him the money. And the quarterback's number 1 target, is trying to be traded to the Steelers, who are going to give the 49ers draft picks, who are then going to turn and trade the draft picks to somebody else for a wide receiver. Like, that's the talk of the town right now.
Right.
He's not going to the Patriots. He's not going to the Browns. It's the Steelers or the Commanders. Commanders don't want to give up Scary Terry. And the Steelers got to send us draft picks for us to go and get somebody. I think Mark Davis would rather die on the spot than send the 49ers Devontae Adams.
Right.
So I don't know what's going on really, but Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Elijah Mitchell, that is a good enough team to make the playoffs and make some noise, but we got to get Trent into camp to get him conditioned, because you don't want the soft tissue injuries. And I think that I told somebody, maybe it was you on the podcast, or maybe it was your dad. I told somebody that August 12th, I think, is my prediction for this all to have an answer. The Monday after the preseason slate is my prediction to have this all done.
On the podcast, recorded and noted. It is filed away.
Okay.
Absolutely. My I'm curious on who you have 1 and 2. I don't. I'm like trying to rack my brain about who your 1 and 2 are, and I feel like I'm
Well,
like overlooking
one should
something.
be easy.
Yeah, one's easy. The rest I'm racking my brain about. I have the San Francisco 49ers at number 3 as well. All the same reasons that you already said. I feel like a lot of people are kind of over the Brandon Ayuk situation at this point, the saga at this point.
I think
And
the 49ers are over it.
Absolutely. And I think that, and from the chat, I saw today that Brandon Ayuk will sign on Monday with the 49ers, which would line up to what you would say. So that'd be funny. It's the thing is like, I think everyone's kind of sick of it. Everyone's kind of watching it, and you're in the same realm of like CD Lamb ish, where like, even if you sign, you report, you will do all that stuff, miscommunication, slow start, potential injuries, all that stuff play into factor now for the first 5 to 6 weeks of the year, and you're gonna have a lot of concern there. So definitely pretty concerned about the star wide receiver that you and I both have a lot of faith into, that some people I think underrate very heavily. And yes, that left tackle, same exact situation, especially being that big, especially being that old. You're a little bit more prone to it. Again, those first 6 weeks are definitely going to be you're going to definitely be looking out for it. Who's your 2?
The saga with Brandon Ayuk is back in May. The 49ers said, listen, this is our offer. This is what you're worth.
Yep.
And Brandon Ayuk said that when he gave when the 49ers gave his agent that offer, he went out and bought himself a brand new suit because he was getting paid. Do you know what happened after that? Amon-Ra got his contract. And then all of a sudden, Brandon Ayuk is like, no, wait a minute. I got to be higher than Brandon Ayuk. And the 49ers are like, nah, bro, that's it right there. So that's the holdup. But the Patriots offered him like 4 years, $120 million. And he's like, I don't want to play for the Patriots. So like I said in Snapchat the other day, he gets to go out and negotiate all these deals and everything and see what his value is at and everything. And he realizes, well, if you want the biggest bag, you got to go play in Siberia in New England. You know, do you want 29.5 from Pittsburgh Steelers, or do you just want to take 26.5, 27 from the 49ers and compete for a Super Bowl? What matters to you? So I think the resolution on this is coming soon.
Yeah.
I think the answer would have been Pat Freiermuth, but Steelers don't want to move him. So, you know, number 2,
dying to know this.
Philadelphia.
Wow. Okay.
What was Philadelphia's biggest weakness last year?
Their corners.
And what did they do?
They drafted 2 of the best corners in the draft.
Do you know who their defensive coordinator is?
Yes, and I'm spacing on the name.
They literally call him Lord Fangio. He's one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. What was their other weakness on offense last year?
The running back position.
And they went out and got a guy who's in the running for Offensive Player of the Year. Do you know who they have at wide receiver?
Yes, Mr. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith.
Do you know who they have at tight end?
Yes, Dallas Goedert.
If Jalen Hurts has his year from the year prior to last year, they're going to win the fucking Super Bowl.
It's sound. It's hard to argue. Absolutely. I can't.
On a preseason power ranking, you can't argue it. Now, Cooper DeJean not being fast enough on the outside to play outside corner, and Quinn, one of these corners is going to be a bust, right? Statistically, one of them's not going to be good.
Physical, being too grabby,
penalty, right? So, but they may not be number 2 week 4. You know what I'm saying? But right now, it's hard to argue. Frankly, I would put them at number 1, except for you can't do that to the Chiefs. If you do, you're just a fucking idiot, because they won the Super Bowl last year with fucking nothing. And they added Hollywood Brown, who's still a good wide receiver, and Xavier Worthy. And I don't care how often that dude gets pushed around in training camp. If Kelsey's your number 1, as long as Xavier Worthy can catch the fucking football, unlike Kadarius Toney, they're going to be fine.
Yep.
Because their defense didn't get any worse. They did trade away their corner, but no team has 2 top-tier corners.
Absolutely. Well, I'll give my 2 and my 1 very quickly. 2 you're not going to like, but I'm doubling down and putting my money where my mouth is. Texans at 2, Chiefs at 1. I already gave my MVP prediction. I already gave my reasoning on the MVP prediction about being one of the top in the conference. And that's where I'm going to sit. Texans at 2, Chiefs at 1. Obviously, Chiefs super explanatory. And I've already gone over the Texas thing. We've already gone back and forth about the additions and CJ Stroud. And if you're watching this on YouTube, go on our YouTube channel, hit subscribe first, and then go ahead and look at our our award predictions, because it's just as good as this video, I promise.
If I can hijack it, this isn't a segment or whatever, but can you give me, you can't repeat any players you've already given, but I'll give you my 3. Give me 3 players that you're most excited to watch this season.
3 players most excited to watch. Okay. And you said you're going to give me your 3?
Mm-hmm. But you can't repeat anyone. Don't say CJ Stroud.
Okay.
I'm going to steal one of yours that you've already mentioned just because I didn't mention him. But
Bryce Young.
You motherfucker.
That one of yours.
All right, you got one of mine. Oh, how did you pull Bryce Young out of your fucking ass? That's good.
It's not, because it's part of my bold predictions. So I read my bold predictions.
All right.
So Bryce Young is there. I'm excited to watch. Damn. Can you give me one and I'll keep thinking?
The starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. I am very excited to see Mr. Richardson and what he can do this year, because everything I've seen in camp, he is just throwing beautiful balls all over the place. I want to see if he's put on enough weight to stand up to his style. And he was, obviously his body didn't hold up last year, but he elected to have the surgery and get things right. And hopefully he can come back, because frankly, if we could just wave a wand and have all 32 teams have competent quarterbacks, that would be good.
I'm going to give one that's 2 names, but it's like one thing. And it's the Baltimore Ravens rushing offense this year. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. So that can count as 1. I'm not going to put both names, but I'll count that as 1.
Okay.
And then your second?
Bryce.
Okay.
I think he's going to have a good year, actually. Like, statistically wise, I don't think the team's going to be any good, but I think, 20 plus interceptions, sub 12, 20 plus interceptions, 20 plus touchdowns, and sub 12. He's going to have a great year. He's going to throw 47 interceptions, and like sub 12 interceptions. Like 25-12 type, kind of like the CJ Stroud last year. I think that's what he'll do. And then my on defense, flipping to defense, I'm super excited about Aiden, and just to see what he can do, because I think he might statistically have one of the best defensive seasons in the league this year. I don't think it'll get him the award, just because it's kind of like the NBA thing where you have to be an all-star of the year, and then the next year they put you in. Like, we call that the Dame Lillard syndrome. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm super excited for Aiden this year.
And then I guess I'll throw out one more name, and specifically a rookie that I'm pretty excited to watch. And this one's going to be kind of a cheese obvious one, but I'm excited to see how much Marvin Harrison Jr. can live up to the hype up to this point.
Sure.
Especially, and I know you've already said it multiple times about the Kyler thing. I have already made my sentiments about Kyler known very, very strongly, that I'm a Kyler supporter. I think you can go back, dude. I remember this. You can go back almost a year ago now. Like, it's 8 months. Go back to December. I remember we talked a little bit about Kyler and who he is and the questions about him. And I said I'm an avid supporter of him, and I think that he's going to be successful, and I think he's a lot better than people think. So I'm on board with you there. So Marvin Harrison Jr. is definitely going to be a guy to watch, especially. And then from the chat, Aaron Rodgers, CMC, and then Kevontae Turpin with the kickoff changes.
What's funny is I actually had another one that I put on my 5 bold predictions that I'm actually not going to mention because I don't want to argue with you again. But I just want to let you know that my take that I'm not going to actually give you the take. I'm just going to give the name was first name Dalton, last name Kincaid. So I'm just going to put a pin in that because I don't want to argue about the Bills anymore. But that dude, in my opinion, is going to have a massive year.
I don't know if I'd argue too much with Dalton Kincaid. But that's it for our power rankings. And then moving on to the last segment, it is our 5 way too early, 5 bold predictions for the 2024-2025 NFL season. These are bold, they are hot, they're spicy. The higher the spice level, the better. That's what we're aiming for. Is all of it going to be sound? Maybe, maybe not. You look at my list, probably not the most sound stuff. Some of it, it's all headcanon for me. But Drew, do you want to start off or do you want me to start off? Because
whatever you want to do, man.
I can triple down on the whole Texans thing we've been talking about. A team from Texas will make the Super Bowl.
I hope so. That means my team has a chance to win.
So a team from Texas will make the Super Bowl. First, I said the Texans when I first typed it out. And I was like, you know what? I'm pretty negative about my team a lot of the times. But so I'm going to go ahead and throw it a bone. And I'm gonna say a team from Texas will make the Super Bowl this year. What's your first?
Bill Belichick becomes the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Like midway through the season?
Before this season is over. Wow. And yes, that's the team that I just put number 2 in my power rankings. Their head coach is absolutely useless. He doesn't do anything. And their star quarterback doesn't get along with him because he doesn't know X's and O's. So this just came out, just so you know.
Between your first one and my first one, which one's more bold? A team from Texas make the Super Bowl, or Belichick being inserted into the Philadelphia Eagles head coaching job before the season end?
I think the Texans one is more bold just because Sirianni almost got fired last year. And if the stories about Jalen Hurts thinking he's a moron are true, then, you know, the writing's on the wall there.
Yep.
At this point, picking anyone to make the Super Bowl over the Chiefs is just silly.
Mm-hmm.
So, just doesn't make sense.
Go ahead and kick off our number 2s. What's your second one?
I don't know why I feel like this. I just feel like we're headed towards the end of the king. And I'm not talking about King James. I'm talking about King Henry.
Okay.
Whether it's injuries or age or just not molding in a new place, I do not think Derrick Henry is going to be a top 10 running back in the NFL this season.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely, since the age thing, the mileage thing, I think is huge. The amount of carries that he gets year after year after year after year is definitely something that is going to catch up to him one way or another. Wow. Before I say my second one, I have a bold prediction from the chat. Bill and Dak to the New York Giants next season. He finished where he started. That's pretty cool.
How are they going to afford Daniel Jones and Dak Prescott $60 million a year?
No, they haven't out on Daniel Jones's contract at the end of the year, to be fair. Okay, so my second one though is and you're not going to like this. The Chargers are going to finish as a bottom 10 team in the 2024 season. At the end of the 2024 season, the Chargers are going to end up a bottom 10 team. And I know how you feel about Herbie and how you feel about Harbaugh, but me personally, looking at the team, looking at the lineups, I'm not seeing a correlation. Potentially, I get it. I get the coach. I get the quarterback. I don't see the team, dude. I just don't. I don't see where we're going in the direction that we're heading, at least in the first year. This is a multi-year built program in my mind. I think they're gonna finish third at the highest in their division. I think both the Chiefs and the Raiders are going to finish above them.
I think Jim Harbaugh is going to win the Coach of the Year award.
Okay.
So that's not one of my bold predictions.
But that's what you think. Yeah.
Actually, one of my bold predictions that I took off the list was that the Texans are not going to improve on their win total from last year. And I just took that because we've already fully covered the Texans.
Yeah, go check out the other videos of Drew and I arguing if you're on this video.
I think that Puka Nacua will break Justin Jefferson's receiving yard record this year.
Okay.
1,809 yards. We wanted spicy, right?
Where does I have a question for you then. Where does Cooper Kupp fit in this offense?
He's old.
That's where I was kind of going.
Yeah, he's whip route in the end zone for a touchdown.
Is he sub 1,000?
Yeah, I think they're going to rely on that running back a lot, man. That kid's electric.
Yep.
And Puka Nacua, yeah. I mean,
yep.
I don't think he's going to go for 600, but I think Cooper's going to do a lot of his dirty work on these, moving the chains and getting these red zone touchdowns and things like that.
I mentioned that he was in my bold predictions, and this might be the most bold potentially. Bryce Young has a bounce back season and wins the division. And yes, I'm very, very aware of the Atlanta Falcons being in the same division. Outside of that, I don't really give a fuck about the Bucks, and I don't really give a fuck about the Saints and Derek Carr and the whole rest of them. The Falcons are going to be the big wild card here. I'm making this prediction not based on a ton of success from Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers, because honestly, that defense is horrid. But I think that they are going to slightly edge out the Atlanta Falcons, who I have a lot of questions about. And I still believe in Bryce Young. So that's a huge part of it. Is I'm a massive Bryce Young guy from day one. And I'm not sure if that's going to change until maybe after year 3, honestly.
How many we got left?
We got 2 more.
Can I do 3?
Yes.
I have 2 players falling off a cliff this year.
Okay.
So I'll just those 2. I think the Baker Mayfield train is done. And I think that the Devon A-Chain hype from last year does not get replicated this year.
I agree. Now, is it lack of success, or is it injuries, or is it a mix of both? Because I see a mix of both for A-Chain.
I think it's just a lot of, you need to now develop Tua to the next level as a passing quarterback, because you've given him this money and have basically hitched your wagon to him for at least the next 2 years, although the out after 2 years is incredibly obvious.
Yeah.
But you have to try to turn him into something. So that I think there's going to be a lot of focus on that. I don't really want to call it the RPO, but just the Tua takes the snap and takes a couple steps left or right to open up the angle routes and just the quick passing game that they run.
It's like what Dak was doing last year. Once he hits he hits his back foot, the ball should be out of his hands by the time his back foot lands. I have one with 2 players playing for the same team. Both Justin Fields and Russell Wilson will have significant amount of playing time this season, whether that's a full 50-50 split, whether that's game to game. I think both of them, one way or another, are going to play a ton of time this year. And I think it could potentially being a lack of success from both, and Mike Tomlin trying to figure out who's going to be the best fit. The other part of the prediction could be like, what if we see Mike Tomlin employ like a full-blown 2 quarterback system in one game? Because I could see both. Because right now, you hear whispers out of both sides that Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are going to be the starting quarterback.
They keep referring to Justin Fields as an amazing weapon in camp. So I think Russell Wilson's the starter, and they're really going to gadget the piss out of Justin Fields. I don't think that doesn't, that might include throwing touchdowns on plays where he's not the primary quarterback. So
yep.
We saw the 49ers do it with Jimmy G and Trey Lance, and bringing, Jimmy led the team down into the red zone, and then Trey Lance came onto the field and put his running prowess and scored a couple touchdowns. The problem is we realized really quick that Trey Lance just wasn't that fast, but Justin Fields is definitely fast.
Right.
I lied. I got two more.
Okay, good.
I'm gonna leave my spiciest for last, but I think that Christian McCaffrey is gonna finish second in total scrimmage yards this year to Bijan Robinson.
Oh shit! You know what's funny is I almost put Bijan in. I was like looking at Bijan super heavy for a bold prediction, and I just couldn't. I couldn't think of something to put it at. But that's good. I'll be a little upset because you helped me orchestrate the trade to trade away Bijan, so I'll be a little upset. But I could see it. The last one I have is that the record for kickoff return touchdowns in a single season, which is 4, will be broken with the new rules this season.
Does the NFL changing their kickoff rule win the award for most wildly celebrated rule change the NFL's ever done? Because when they went back to letting the players celebrate the touchdowns and everything, there was still a lot of bitterness about the fact that they stopped it in the first place. But
yeah,
that's only been a couple of preseason games, and I don't think everybody's showing their hand on it yet. But it's a running play now.
Yep.
And for my team, I got the best fullback in the league. I got the best pass blocker in the league back there in Kyle Juszczyk. And then if it gets blocked up and that ball is in Debo's hands, I do feel a little bad for Devin Hester. I wish he was still around. But my last bold prediction is tying in with the Anthony Richardson thing.
Okay.
I'm not going to say this dude's going to throw for 40 touchdowns or anything like that, but I think entertainment factor in terms of putting the fucking TV on and watching the man sling the pill around, I think Will Levis this year is going to be super fun to watch.
He was another one I thought about. Absolutely.
That team sucks and they're not going to do shit. So that motherfucker might as well just go out and put balls to the wall and just sling that shit all over. I think that he could have a 7 touchdown or 6 touchdown, just something stupid, or a 500 passing yard. I don't know what his stats will look like at the end of the year. Obviously the Titans aren't going to be that good, but I mean, if you're the Titans and you're going to suck, at least you get to watch Will Levis. Think about if you're a New Orleans Saints fan right now. It's Derek Carr is still in the league. We gave him a 4-year, $150 million contract. What the hell is wrong with us? And our coach sucks.
Yeah, just to throw the ball 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage every play.
Yeah.
If you have nothing else to add, that is our 5 bold predictions. And not only that, that is the end of the show. Drew, I think this is one of the first times that we've actually had a real hardcore back and forth. And honestly, it was entertaining as hell. And I feel like as soon as we got done, we were like, oh my God, that was draining. This is why we never fucking argue. But it was exciting nonetheless. And especially since we agree on so much, it's interesting to see how much we disagreed on rolling into the start of this year. Next week, we are going to have the start of our record predictions. Next week, we can start with the AFC. And then the week after that, we could do the NFC. Unless, Drew, you want to flip-flop it around?
No. Let's do it that way first, because hope to God Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams are in camp. That way I can accurately predict the 49ers schedule this year.
Absolutely.
But I will give you a spoiler alert. They slapping that ass on Sunday, October 5th, when the Dallas Cow bitches come to town. They are sending them home sad again. Thank you very much.
So that's what we have going on for the next 2 weeks. After those 2 weeks, we are going to be right there about to start the football season. And that's what we're going to be on schedule for every single week until next February. So if you are not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. We are approaching that 100 subscriber count.
Hook it up. Hook it up.
Keep pumping up those numbers. We do appreciate it. Besides that, Drew, any last words for the people?
Yeah, shout out to the USA winning over Serbia this year. Today, they came back from 20 down, and they're trying to go for that gold medal. That way we can cement my guy, Easy Money Sniper, as a better player than Kawhi Leonard. So keep it going.
Yeah, just remember for the rest of the world, what the fuck is a kilometer? And besides that, we use freedom measurements. Peace out to the people. We will see you next week.